Welcome to the course ARM Microcontroller and Embedded System, Lecture 1 of Module 2. Module 2 deals with ARM Cortex-M3, instruction set and programming. So we are going to start this module by studying the memory system of Cortex-M3 processors. In this video, we would be covering these three topics with respect to the memory system of Cortex-M3 processors. So in module 1, we had stated that the memory map of Cortex-M3 processor is predefined. It has a predefined memory map, which means it is clearly specified which region of the memory is meant to hold what type of data and which bus interface is used for accessing that particular memory location. So it has a predefined memory map. So now we'll look into the features of the memory system of Cortex-M3 processor. One of the feature is it supports bit band operations. Bit band operation means I would be able to operate the data at bit level, access the data at bit level. Second feature is with respect to the data storage. So Cortex-M3 processors support both Little Endian and Big Endian method for storage of data. It supports both the memory configurations. And next point speaks about unaligned transfers. It also supports unaligned transfers and also exclusive accesses. So these are the features of the memory system of Cortex-M3 processor. Each of these features would be dealt in detail in this module. So first let us see what is the memory map of the Cortex-M3 processor. So the first region is the code region. So the code region is used for storing the program and the vector table. So you know that 1 KB of memory is required for storing the vector table, which has the addresses of the ISRs and the exception handlers, right? So that 1 KB of vector table and the program is stored in this region. So we are starting from the first address, that is the initial address. Okay, so first comes the code region, followed by the SRAM region, which is used for storing code as well as data. And this SRAM region also supports bit band feature, right? So this is followed by on-chip peripherals. So in this region, you will have the data relevant to the on-chip peripherals stored. Next, you have the external RAM, which is used for storing code as well as data. After this, you have your external devices, that is nothing but peripheral devices which are external to the processor. So data relevant to the peripherals outside the processor is stored in this particular memory region. And next you have your private peripheral bus. And the private peripheral bus, you have two components, internal and external. We have internal and external. This is now followed by the vendor specific region, wherein the vendor can add on as components in this particular space provided, right? So these are the different regions of the memory which is used for storing different types of data, right? So if you look into the memory size allotted for each region, code region is given 0.5 GB of memory space. SRAM is given again 0.5 GB and on-chip peripherals 2 is given with 0.5 GB of memory space. External RAM and external devices are given with 1 GB space. So now we have 3.5. We are left with again a 0.5 GB, which is assigned for the system level control space, which includes the PBB bus and the vendor specific region, right? So totally the memory space comes up to 4 GB. So Cortex-M3 processors support 4 GB of memory, right? So as I told you, SRAM region supports the bit band feature, which means you can operate the data stored in this region at bit level. So the initial 1 MB of memory Okay, so the initial 1 MB of memory is called the bit band region. So inside this 1 MB of memory, every bit can be accessed at bit level. Every bit of the 32-bit number stored here can be accessed at bit level, and that bit addresses are what is available in the bit band alias region. And you have 32 MB set aside for storing the addresses, for having the addresses assigned for the bit for the bits which are available at the 1 MB space of the bit band region, right? So that is what is bit band feature, which would be dealt in detail later in the chapter. Even the on-chip peripherals have the bit band feature, and the same setup works even here. The initial 1 MB can be accessed individually using a unique address which is assigned in the bit band alias region. And bit band alias region has a memory size of 32 MB, and bit band region has a memory size of 1 MB for both the memory regions, SRAM as well as the on-chip peripherals, right? So now, so with that, these regions are done. Now let us go to the PBB components. So when I talk about the PBB internal components, so these are the components which are available. So you have few regions which are reserved, which are not used. So NVIC is used for controlling or monitoring. This part is used for your 256 exceptions and interrupts. FPB stands for flash or fetch, patch and breakpoint unit. So this is used for debug operations. Like if you have an instruction at a breakpoint is executed, if an instruction at breakpoint is executed, it can be replaced by another instruction. So that is what which means that you're going to implement a patch mechanism in a fixed program code. Next you have DWT, which is data watch point and trace unit. This is used for debugging and trace operations. This debug component is basically used for monitoring certain memory locations. It is used for monitoring certain memory locations by generating the data trace packets. ITM stands for instrumentation trace macro cell. This is a component for debug and trace. This allows the software. So this component allows the software to generate data trace stimulus. Okay. So this component generates data trace stimulus. You have another component in the external region. So these are the components in the external PBB. So in external PBB, you have something called as ETM, which is embedded trace macro cell. This component is used for generating the instruction trace. Okay, here we are generating the data trace stimulus. Here we are generating the instruction trace for the debugging software, right? So next you have in this external PBB region, the TPIU, which stands for trace port interface unit. It is a component for converting the trace packets from the trace sources to trace interface protocol so that the trace data can be captured easily with minimal set of pins, right? So this is an interface unit which is used for capturing the trace data with minimal set of pins. And you have your ROM table here, which holds the addresses of each of these debug and trace components. So every debug and trace components would be given with an ID, and that ID is stored in a ID register, and these registers are what is being stored in the ROM table. And this external PBB region is for the vendor to add on his own debug components if he wants to, if required, right? And above this, you have the vendor specific region, again meant for the vendor to add on the features which you want to into the processor memory, right? So this is about the PBB external and internal components. Now let us see what would be the starting address and the last address for each of these regions so that we can access them without any problem. Okay, so we need to know where exactly the SRAM region is starting, where exactly it is stopping, so that I will know that I need to put my code or data into that particular address. I mean, I should be able to access only that region for storing my data. So to generate the addresses, we need to first know how many bits are required for accessing it. That is, how many address lines are required for accessing each of these memory sizes. So if you take 4 GB, 4 GB would require 32 address lines, A0 to A31. If you take 1 GB, it requires 30 address lines, A0 to A29. 0.5 GB would require 2 to the power of 29. 0.5 GB is 2 to the power of 29, which means it requires 29 address lines, A0 to A28. And 32 MB would require 25 address lines, A0 to A24. So with this information, that is the number of address lines required for addressing each of these memory space, we have generated the starting address and the last address table. Okay, so here you can see that if the starting address is 0, for 4 GB, the last address is FFF, 8 Fs. In 1 GB, it is 3 followed by 7 Fs. 0.5 GB, it is 1 followed by 7 Fs. And for 32 MB, it is 0, 1 followed by 6 Fs. Okay, 0, 1 followed by 6 Fs. So once you have got this table ready, now given any starting address, I should be able to write the last address. So for 4 GB, anyway, this is the complete address space. For 1 GB, if it is starting at 6 followed by 7 zeros, I can generate the last address by adding to this particular address 3 and 7 Fs. So if I add 3 and 7 Fs, I would get 9 followed by 7 Fs. So for 1 GB, if I know the starting address, I need to just add 3 followed by 7 Fs. Similarly, for 0.5 GB, if I know the starting address, to generate the last address for that space, I need to add 1 followed by 7 Fs, which will give me 5 FFF. FF. Okay. For 32 MB, I need to add to this number 0, 1 followed by 6 Fs. So which will give me 2, 3 FFFF. FFF, right? So this is basically to help you understand how to generate the last addresses given the memory size. Okay. Now with this knowledge, let us see how to fill the starting address and last address for each of these regions. So as you know, first is the code region of 0.5 GB. Next you have the SRAM region of 0.5 GB, on-chip peripherals of 0.5 GB, and then you have your external RAM of 1 GB, external peripherals or devices which is of 1 GB, followed by your PBBs and your vendor specific region, which is totally given with 0.5 GB. So with this memory size available, now we would write the starting address and last address for each of the regions. So code region is starting at all zeros. So before that, since this compresses of 4 GB, the first address for the entire memory map would be 000, all 8 bits 0 or 8 digits 0 to all 8 being F. Okay, all 8 Fs. Each nibble here is represented, right? So all 8 being Fs. So this is for the entire 4 GB memory map of Cortex M3 processor. So my code region starts first. So if code region is of 0.5 GB, if I'm starting here, my last address would be 1 followed by 7 Fs. 1 followed by 7 Fs. So before I proceed, let me repeat. For 1 GB, you need to add 3 followed by 7F. For 0.5 GB, you have to add 1 followed by 7F. And for 32 MB, which we would require in case of SRAM regions, for the bitband alias regions, it is 0, 1 followed by 6Fs. Okay, so 0.5 GB, 1 followed by 7Fs. So the next address is 2 followed by 6 zeros. So my SRAM region would start at this address. And since this is of 0.5 GB, I can generate the last address now by adding to this 1 FFFF. So when I add this, I would get the last address as 3 followed by 7 Fs, right? So 2 followed by 7 zeros to 3 followed by 7 Fs is the memory space of my SRAM region. Is the memory space of my SRAM region. Now let me go to the peripherals. The peripheral on-chip peripherals would start at the next address, that is 4 followed by 7 zeros. Since this is again of 0.5 GB, to this I need to add now 1 FFFF, which would give me 5 FFFF. So this is the memory space for my on-chip peripheral. External RAM follows next. So the next address is 6 followed by 7 zeros. But here the memory space allocated for this is 1 GB. Since it is 1 GB, to this I need to add now 3 followed by 7Fs, which will yield me 9 followed by 7Fs. So 6 followed by 7 zeros to 9 followed by 7Fs is the memory space for the external RAM region of the memory map. Okay, so the external devices starts next. So after this you have your A followed by 7 zeros, and since this is of 1 GB, I need to add 3. So A plus 3, B, C, D. So it would be at D followed by 7Fs. And the next address for the system level control space would start now at E followed by 6 zeros, and the last address for this is FFFFF. So now we have learned how to write the starting address and the last address for each of these memory regions based on the size. So only if you know the address to be accessed, I mean the memory space region to be accessed, then I would know to which address I need to get into if I want to access the SRAM region, right? So that's the reason we have clearly specified the starting address and last address for each of the memory regions. Okay. So now in SRAM and the on-chip peripherals, you have the bit band feature. Since these two support bit band feature, let us write the addresses for it. So first you have the bit band region, and at the top you have the bit band alias region. Bit band region is of 1 MB. Bit band alias region is of 32 MB. In between you have another 31 MB which has been used for the SRAM operations. So this 1 MB space would start at the starting address of SRAM itself. So the same structure is applicable even for the on-chip peripherals, 1 MB, 31 MB and 32 MB. So this 1 MB is bit band region and 32 MB is the bit band alias region. So my SRAM is starting at 2 followed by 7 zeros, right? So from 2 followed from 7 zeros, 1 MB of space can be accessed at bit level, and the bit addresses would be available in the bit band alias region, which would start at the address 22000, 22 followed by 6 zeros. So if I have to find the last address for the bit band alias region, since it is of 32 MB, I need to add to this 01 FFFF, which would give me 23 FFFF. So this is my bit band alias region wherein I have the bit addresses of the data stored in this 1 MB space. So since my on-chip peripheral is starting at 4 followed by 6 zeros, the bit band alias would start at 4200 and then end at 43 FFFF. So in this case, I've added 01 FFFF to get the last address for the 32 MB space of the bit band alias region. Right? So this is about the addresses for the various regions in detail. Okay. So now that you know the memory map of the Cortex-M3 processors, we would see what would be the default memory access permissions allowed for it. Like first you have the code region, after this you have the SRAM region, on-chip peripherals, external RAM, external device, PBB internal external, and then the vendor specific region, right? So this was the predefined memory map of Cortex-M3 processor. We would now see what is the default memory access permission. That is, once I turn on the processor, what are the areas which the user can access by default. Okay, so if you want to impose any memory restriction, you can do so by designing the memory protection unit for the region that you want to protect, right? So if you want to restrict the user from entering into any memory region, you can do so by designing the memory protection unit. But this is the default memory access permission for the user. Okay, so out of all these regions, your PBB region is the blocked one. Okay, only this PBB region, both internal and external, is blocked for the user. If the user tries to access this region, it results in bus fault, which is a type of exception. Okay, it results in bus fault. An exception would be raised indicating that there was a bus fault. So only the PBB region has been blocked for the user. All other regions is given full access. The vendor specific region is also given full access. So this is the default setting. This setting can be changed by designing the memory protection unit depending on your requirement, right? Now coming to the memory attributes, there are 4 memory attributes for the Cortex-M3 processor: bufferable, executable, cacheable, shareable. Bufferable means write to memory by a write buffer. That is, write buffer is nothing but it is a buffer which is used to hold data, or it is that data has been written from the cache memory to the main memory. So this attribute basically speaks about whether you're able to write the data and store it and buffer it using the write buffer in your particular memory region. If you can do so, then we say that it is bufferable. Executable is you should be able to fetch the codes from that particular memory region and execute the program. Cacheable is data from memory read to be copied to the memory cache. That is, this attribute speaks about reading the data from the memory location specified. So whether it is possible for you to read the data from that memory region and copy it into a different memory, cache memory, to the cache memory. If that is possible, then we say that it is cacheable. So here bufferable speaks about writing. Cacheable speaks about reading the data from the memory region, right? Lastly, you have the shareable attribute, which is nothing but indicating whether the data can be shared by the multiple bus masters. So as you know, you have 3 different bus interfaces which the Cortex-M3 processors support. So across the buses, if you are able to share the data using multiple bus masters, then we say that it is shareable, right? So these are the 4 attributes, out of which now we'll be indicating these 3 attributes for each memory region of the memory map. So shareable we are not writing because this basically deals with the bus. Okay, so this deals with the bus of your Cortex-M3 processor. Okay, so now let us see what are the attributes available for each of these regions. So if you take SRAM region and the code region, you have all the 3 attributes applicable. In the sense, it is possible for you to buffer the data, it is bufferable. You can execute the data from that particular region, executable, and even you can read the data from it, and it is cacheable. So these 3 are, these 3 attributes are true for SRAM region as well as the code region, but all the 3 are not true for your PBB region. So for PBB region, both internal and external, none of the 3 attributes are true. It is not possible to write, non-bufferable, you cannot execute, non-executable, and you cannot even read, so non-cacheable. So all the 3 are not true to the PBB region. When you take the on-chip peripheral region, in this you have the data relevant to the peripherals, correct? Since you have only the data relevant to the peripherals and not the program which has to get executed, you can execute never the data stored here. Okay, execute never, and even there's no point in reading it too. So it is non-cacheable, but you can buffer it, bufferable. Okay, similarly your external devices, this is nothing but again peripherals which are external. So this again would have the same attributes as that of the on-chip peripherals. So it is bufferable, but never executable and non-cacheable. Okay, so external RAM region is executable and cacheable. And when you come to the system, vendor specific region, you can write the data into it, hence it is bufferable. The vendor can write into it, so he has made it bufferable, but he can never execute it nor he can read it. So non-cacheable and execute never. So these are the memory attributes which are available for each of these regions in the memory map of your Cortex-M3 processors, right? So in this video, we have studied the different regions of the Cortex-M3 processors and the memory size assigned for each one of them, with the addresses assigned for each of these memory regions, what are the default access permissions, as well as the memory attributes. Thank you.